guys, I'm Laura Vitale, and on this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I want to share with you my recipe for a whole wheat sandwich bread. Now, not too long ago, I showed you how to make a white sandwich bread, and I had a ton of people asking for a whole wheat version. So here I am today bringing it to you, and I'm really excited, especially if you follow me on my vlog channel, which you totally should. If you don't, because I'm so cool, then you'll know that this is one of the things I make very often, and I've had so many people ask for the recipe. I love this kind of bread because it's perfect for toast. I keep it sliced in the freezer, and every morning I just take it out, I thaw it, I pop it in the toaster, and I've got perfect, homemade, delicious toast for whatever I'm making that day. The ingredients are few and basic, but they're just the right ones. You'll need whole wheat flour, salt, some dry milk powder. It can be whole or non-fat. I also have some honey. You could also use molasses, but I prefer honey. Some melted vegetable shortening. I have yeast, a pinch of sugar, and some warm water. Okay, let's get started on activating the yeast. To my warm water, I'm going to add my yeast and my sugar. And now you want to make sure that your water is at a good temperature because you don't want the water to be too hot because otherwise it'll kill the yeast. But you don't want it to be too cold, otherwise it won't activate it. So around 115 degrees Fahrenheit is what you are looking for. Now, to my dry ingredients, the first thing I want to tell you is that when you're making a bread with 100% whole wheat flour, you need to expect that the bread will be a bit dense. It's not going to be as light as our white bread because whole wheat flour is heavier, so the bread's going to be a bit more dense. I love it. It's what, to me, whole wheat bread is. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I will be showing you in a future episode how to make a light wheat bread, which has got a great combination of both, and it's a bit lighter, but still has all that wonderful flavor. But for today, we're doing 100% whole wheat bread, and I love it. I've got my dry ingredients here. I'm going to give these a really good mix. Now, for my white bread, I used sugar. Today, for my whole wheat bread, I'm using honey. I always use honey when I make a whole wheat bread. You could use molasses. I personally tend to think molasses is a little bit strong, so I always use the honey. But you could use molasses if you want to. The world is your pickle, my friend. I'm just going to set this aside and just wait a few minutes for the yeast to activate, and then we will go on to the next step. Now I'm making the bread in my standing mixer with my dough hook attachment. Makes my life a lot easier, but as always, just knead it with your hands for a good 15-20 minutes until it comes together beautifully. As you can see, my yeast is foamed up, which is a really good sign. And to that, I'm going to add in my melted vegetable shortening and my honey. And now I want to give you a quick tip, and that is to spray some nonstick spray in your container. You're going to pour the honey in because, as you will see in just a second, everything comes out really easy. So, tip of the day. Go ahead and give this a good stir. Don't have to be too precise about it. You just want to kind of mix those ingredients together a bit. And pour that mixture right into your dry ingredients. I'm just going to switch to my spatula for a second because there's a little bit left behind. And I want all of that paid for and eat it. I'm going to put on my dough hook attachment. I'm going to raise the roof here, and I'm going to mix this together until it comes together. Now, you'll know what you're looking for. It'll kind of come together in a ball. You might need to stop your mixer and give it a scrape around just to make sure everything is combined together. But let this go for 3 to 5 minutes or until you have a nice smooth dough, a ball of dough. And in the meantime, and get a bowl, grease it with a little bit of nonstick spray or some vegetable oil and get that ready because that's where we're going to put the dough in to rise. This is what you will get. Now, as you can see, it's not a big round ball, but it is pretty firm. I mean, you can see it's not super sticky. I've got an oiled bowl here. And I'm just going to take all of this out with my dough scraper. Get it out of there. And then I'm just going to take whatever is left on my pastry brush from the vegetable oil and just kind of pat the very top of this because I don't want it to form a skin. Okay, now what I'm going to do is cover this with some plastic wrap, stick it somewhere nice and warm. I'm actually going to put mine in the same place I always do, but my oven's turned on right now, which means it could take about an hour, but usually it'll probably take a good 2 hours for it to double in size really nicely. So be patient, it's going to happen. You're just looking for this to be doubled in size and to be really sort of light, and it's going to be fantastic when it's there. I'll show you what it looks like. My dough has been rising for about an hour and a half. Now I keep my, when I want to get my dough to rise, I keep it in the microwave. Obviously I don't turn the microwave on, but as you can see, my microwave is right above my stove and right above the oven. So when I do have the oven turned on, the heat kind of rises and it helps things along a little bit. If the oven wasn't on, this would probably take about 2 hours. But you know, that always helps. Look how beautiful that is. And I also have a 9 by 5 inch loaf pan that I've sprayed really nicely with some nonstick spray. And we're gonna get this out of here, but I wanna just very lightly, you don't wanna use too much flour because you don't wanna keep adding flour and make this dense. I'm gonna just put a little bit of all-purpose flour on my work surface and then just get this out. Get it all out of there. And then just, I'm going to do is just deflate this with my hands. And then I just kind of roll it into about a square. I always use my baking pan as like a measuring device. That looks about right. And I just kind of fold it like so. And always pinch the bottom. And then what I'm going to do, that's already smelling fantastic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this baby right in here. And then I just flatten it to kind of fit the mold better. Then take my plastic, once again, just loosely cover that, like so. Take a kitchen towel, put that right back on, well, right on there. And now you're gonna put this to rise again until it has come up the size of your baking pan. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's there. It could take anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half or longer. Again, really depending on where you're putting it. And I'm gonna put back into my microwave, not turning anything on. I'm just letting the oven do all the work because it's nice and hot, so it's helping me out along. My bread's been rising for a good hour, and look at it. This is exactly what you're looking for. Now at this point, your oven should be preheated to 350, and this is gonna go into the oven to bake for about 45 minutes. The easiest way to tell when a bread is done is if you tap on it. If it sounds like nobody's home, if it's nice and hollow, then you know it's good to go. I'm gonna pop this in 45 minutes. If it's starting to look like it's getting too dark, too quick, like I mentioned before, cover it with foil. I'm gonna pop this in, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. My bread baked for 45 minutes and I let it cool completely on a wire rack, and now I'm going to go ahead and slice it. Now, like I mentioned in my white bread video, if you want the top of your bread to be nice and soft, just take a damp paper towel and just pat the whole top of the top of the bread with a damp paper towel. It'll keep it nice and soft. But because I like it to have a little bit of a crust so I can use it to make sandwiches, I don't do that. I leave the top nice and crispy. And like I mentioned, now I did not cover my bread at all. I didn't need to be. And like I mentioned, you need to be careful that when you are making 100% whole wheat bread, it's going to be a bit more dense than white bread, but that's the beauty of whole wheat bread. I mean, you can still see it's nice and soft, but it's just going to be a little more dense. But I love the smell. And you could put some oats in here if you wanted to. That's really, really good. It's like the perfect whole wheat sandwich bread. You can use it to make sandwiches, toast in the morning, whatnot. Be great for French toast, be great for anything. And a recipe like this is crucial to have in your back pocket just for whenever you want it. And also it's always great to build up your recipe box with like basics. You know, you've got your basic white bread, you've got your whole wheat bread, and from here on I'm going to show you sort of a little more basic bread recipes like a baguette, a sourdough. Those are all going to be coming very, very soon. To get this recipe, go to laurainthekitchen.com. I hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.